Hello, beautiful family. Welcome to your video number 26 on the topic of the rewarded life. We just finished talking about Esther, and we're going to talk a little bit about Joseph in the next 4 videos. Some of you might never have read the story, and because of time, we won't be able to read it, but I encourage you to read the full story of Joseph starting in chapter 37 of Genesis, and then you jump to chapter 39, and then all the way to chapter 42, I believe, and you will read one of the greatest stories in the Bible. What are we talking about? We're talking about the rewarded life. We're talking about what happens when you yield to the plan of God to serve Him, and how He will deal with you. Joseph was not in a perfect family. And so many of the heroes of the faith in the Bible are known because they made a mistake, because they were hated, because they were in trouble. But if you find them in the 11th chapter of Hebrews, God sees them as heroes of the faith. One of the things that I want to talk to you today is that as you yield in the plan of God and you serve Him with all of your heart, expect God to rescue you from all of your afflictions. I believe, I have faith for divine rescue when we are in His plans. I believe that as you are walking with Him, God is going to deliver your children and your grandchildren and bring them back to Him. I really believe that the way God treated Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob is the way how we can expect God to treat us, our children, and our grandchildren. And we must also act like Abraham. We must also be willing to yield, even in the most difficult moments, to His plan. Abraham did not have the dream of having a baby. That was God's dream. When you embrace a God-given dream, you have embraced both the dream and the power to fulfill that dream. We know Joseph to be the dreamer, and he has a family. He's the favorite of his father, but hated by his brothers. And to be the favorite of his father brought him a lot of joy, brought him a coat of many colors. But the hatred of his brothers took him to a pit where they were planning his murder, to finally decide, instead of murdering him, to sell him as a slave. Then they planned what report they would give to their father, and they ripped the coat of many colors. They poured some blood of an animal and presented it to their father, saying, an animal has killed your son. What a story, what a tragedy, that's something unheard of, that brothers could do that a father could hear such pain, that so many lies could be in the family. Yet in the middle of all of that, there's a plan. Why do I say that? Because sometimes we think for God to use us, we have to be perfect. Perfect family, perfect circumstances, no mistakes, no issues, everybody loving each other. But the greatest plans have come from very difficult circumstances. So I don't know where you are in your circumstances, but wherever you are, yield to the plan of God. And tell Him today, I will serve you with all of my heart. I yield to the dream. How do we know Joseph yielded to the dream God placed inside of him? Because he talked about it. Once you talk about what God tells you, it is now installed like an app inside of your heart. It's operating. And that dream operated inside of Joseph the entire journey that he went through. But this is a verse that I want you to read as we start on the story of Joseph. And again, it's a long story. There is no way I can share everything. So I'm going to be sharing the highlights of the story, hoping that you will be interested to read and study. And I pray that you will see yourself in that story. A lot of people want to talk about dreams, but we're talking about a God-given dream. That's very different. To know that you know that you know that God put something inside of you. Once you know God put something inside of you, you have everything, every resource from heaven for that dream to come to pass, in spite of attacks, lies, rejection, in spite of feeling alone, forsaken. In spite of all of that, the plan is at work. So let me read to you Acts chapter 7, verse 9. It says, "And the patriarchs, moved with envy, sold Joseph into Egypt, but God was with him and delivered him out of all his afflictions." I'm going to say that again, and I pray that you will take that for yourself. "And the patriarchs, moved with envy, sold Joseph into Egypt, but God was with him and delivered him out of all his afflictions, and gave him favor and wisdom in the sight of Pharaoh, king of Egypt, and he made him governor over Egypt and all his house." And then, of course, you can continue reading. One of the things that we've been talking about is that when you are in the plan of God, we are not the center of the story. It's not for us. Everything for us. Anytime you make something about me, then when you fail, you think that everything crashes. Just like you thought you were the reason for everything, if you fail, you're going to feel you are the only one that is holding the plan together, and at some point, you're going to feel a failure. But when you know it's God's plan, and He has many pieces in that plan, you are one of those pieces. I am one of those pieces. We are connected. And what's the purpose of Joseph? The purpose of Joseph is to create a bridge from Israel, Canaan, to the promised land, to Egypt, when there is no food. God has a plan to protect His people, and He's going to use Joseph to make that happen. So remember, God has a people in mind. God has souls in mind. God has His church in mind. God has His kingdom in mind. And you and I are parts that He will use, and He will protect us, deliver us from our afflictions, and bless us on the way there. Thank you for listening, family. I hope you don't miss the next video. If you would like to sow a seed to Wisdom for Winning Church, you can by going through PayPal or Zelle. The email is pastorana@wisdomforwinningchurch.tv, or you can sow through Cash App, Wisdom, 4, Winning. God bless you.